This video is teaching you how to do harsh light product photography. I keep seeing this trend all over Instagram. All the cool brands are hopping on this trend and they want photographers that can do this for them. This video is teaching you how to photograph products with harsh light. And while it may seem easy on paper, there are some common mistakes you need to avoid if you want to be able to pitch this service to brands. Let's get into it. Using harsh light is great because you don't have to deal with diffusion. All you need is a light source. No bulky light domes, no umbrellas, or huge modifiers. When I was learning about photographic lighting, no one talked about using harsh light. Lighting was supposed to be soft. You didn't want harsh shadows or a super bright reflection on your product. Recently though, there's been a shift in what all the new brands are doing. All the brands are hopping on this harsh lighting trend. And as product photographers and creative business owners, it's our responsibility to learn the skill to be able to pitch it to our clients. By the way, if this is your first time here, my name is Chris Pieta. I run a production company and I teach creative business online. Right now, about half of my clients ask for harsh lighting in their photos. During our onboarding stages, we talk in depth about what their preferences are so that we can deliver the best photos possible. If you're here because product photography is your hobby, then that's great. But if you want to be able to make money from it, I've actually got a free course on my website that walks you through getting your first clients. Check that out for free below. Okay, let's dive right in. You can think of harsh light as direct sunlight. When you're outside on a sunny day, you see harsh shadows all around you. The sun is shining and it's producing crisp shadows everywhere. On the other hand, on a cloudy day or overcast day, you have soft diffused light outside. You're not seeing many shadows, and the ones that you do see are soft without a defined edge. We're going to be trying to recreate that sunny day look. The beauty of harsh lighting is that you don't need a bulky diffuser. All you need for lighting is a light source. Today I'll be using the Nanlite Forza 200 monolight. This is a continuous LED light that gets super bright. The light that comes straight out of it is harsh, and that's exactly what we want. We've already made the decision to use harsh light. What other things do we have to factor in? Well, the angle of the light is going to be huge. Depending on how you want your final image to look, you can either position the light high up, pointing down to get really small shadows, or you can position the light low to get super long shadows. There's also a million possibilities in between here. I keep talking about shadows here. Harsh lighting actually unlocks new creativity choices for us. We now have strong shadows. Normally we want to minimize these, but with harsh lighting, we actually want to lean into these and make them a cool part of the photo. We can use props in the scenes to cast more shadows. Things like geometric blocks add some really cool elements to the photo. We can use props like plants to cast in shadows of leaves or branches. I know there's a big trend for brands to use some tropical plant to cast a shadow in the background of the scene. This is the type of stuff that harsh lighting unlocks. If you happen to live in a house that gets a lot of light in the mornings, you can see all the different types of shadows that are being cast just in your house. We'll be making these creative choices in our product photography today. Alright, enough talk, let's build out a few scenes and see what magic we can make happen. If you don't have any products from brands that you're working with yet, remember to check out that free course I mentioned down below. It walks you through step by step how to get your first client. First, let's introduce harsh light with some simple colored background scenes. I want to slowly build up in complexity here so that you can see the different levels of using harsh light. I'll be using this can of Leisure. There's some purple and blue elements on this can, so I think a lavender backdrop will work great here. I love finding subtle elements on the can and using those colors to complement the scene. Brands will often have their own color guidelines as well. If you're unsure of what color to use, you can always use one of their brand colors as a backdrop for the shoot. In terms of camera, we're going to start by shooting the product straight on. I'll be using a 24 to 70mm zoom lens and set it around 50mm. My camera today is my tried and true Sony a7R IV. You don't need an expensive camera for this type of stuff either if you're just starting out. The important thing to use is great lighting, so invest in a quality monolight. I'm setting up the Nanlite Forza 200. This is a great light. You get a lot of power from this small body and it comes in at a great price point. I'm also using a spreader stand here, nothing fancy. Since the body of this light is so small, I can get away with an inexpensive stand. We're bringing the light pretty high up and pointing it down at a 45-degree angle to start. This is a classic lighting setup. If you've watched any of my other product photography videos, you know how much I love the 45-degree lighting positioning. I've also put on a reflector attachment here on the light. This helps with increasing the actual output of the light. Now, just from these B-roll clips, you're already able to see how the shadows are at play here. There's a long shadow behind the can, exactly how we want it. Okay, everything is set up, so let's start shooting. The hard part is over. These photos are coming out really well. My exact settings here aren't super important. I usually will shoot these photos at f8 with a 1/125 shutter speed and ISO as low as I can get it, usually 100. Wow, these photos are looking really good. I think I know how we can make these a little bit more interesting though. The can and all is great for straight up product shots, but let's add in some props. I was talking earlier about how big of a role shadows play in this type of photography. So let's add in some geometric props and see what we can do. Someone's gonna ask where I got these, and honestly, I can't remember. They were super cheap and they're pretty poor quality, but they do get the job done. I would just Google geometric props and see what you can get. Anyways, we're building out the scene here with these blocks, stacking them on top of each other, and just kind of playing around with them, taking a photo and seeing what we like. I don't think there's too much of a science behind this. It's a lot of experimentation and trial and error. Try and keep your scene balanced with shadows and props and make sure they're not a distraction. Remember, the star of the show is the can. You don't want to add too much stuff to the scene and take away from that. As you can see, we've got some interesting shadows and highlights at play here. Super cool. If we were using soft light, we would miss out on a lot of these unique elements. Next, I was trying to use this plant to try and cast some cool shadows onto the can and the background, and honestly, I failed at this. The plant was just too small, and it couldn't cast a big enough shadow. For something like this, you need a huge palm leaf or something with more distinct leaves. One really cool thing we can do with a can and harsh light is add some water droplets. Grab a spray bottle, fill it with either water or a 50-50 mix with water and glycerin. This mix will help the droplets stick to the can a little better. I'm gonna spray the can and set it up right where we had it. Harsh light is fantastic because it shows way more texture in the can. This is a good thing when it comes to water droplets. We can see some really cool depth to these droplets because of the way the shadows are being cast here. Whenever I work with beverage brands, I love to throw in shots like this. Water droplets on a can make for more thirst appeal. And when brands are trying to sell beverages with your photos, the more thirst appeal, the better. Let's grab another one of these cans and have some fun with it. You don't always need props to create an interesting scene. Just having two of the products can unlock creative possibilities. You can have one leaning against the other, leading to a unique image. This simple setup is a great way to elevate your photos, although it is a bit tricky to try and get this can to balance. You can also try and stack the cans, one on top of the other, and see what happens. You'll definitely end up with some more unique shadows when you go this route. There's no magic formula to what I'm doing here either. It really comes down to how creative you want to get. Even a simple side-by-side photo can be cool. It's up to you to stretch those creative muscles. Now let's zoom in real close to these photos. First, let's just try a wet can. Here we can really start to see the details and the water droplets. This is a unique shot. It's something that you don't see every day. I don't believe this is considered macro photography, whatever it's called. I love this style. Finally, we're introducing a new element, our hands. Adding a human element to a photo can really help it stand out. Harsh light looks completely different on skin when compared to soft light. I actually prefer the look of harsh light on your hand, but it's totally personal preference. I'm not going to do anything fancy here. I'm just grabbing the can from the side and bringing it into the scene. I'm trying to hold it in a way that we can see all the relevant logos, names, and designs on the can. Remember, you don't want your hand to be a distraction. You want it to add to the scene. If you cover up parts of the can with your thumb, people are going to get distracted by that and wonder why a thumb is in the subject of the frame. Keep this in mind when shooting photos with your hands in the frame. Real quick, we're gonna edit this photo now. The beauty of harsh light photography is the edits are really simple. There's no big reflections they have to worry about, so rarely do you have to use Photoshop to get rid of them. All right, so let's just crop this. We'll go into 4x5, perfect for Instagram. Now the first choice we make is whether we wanna keep the shadow in the crop or not. For this one, we're just going to crop it out a bit, but still maintain a cool looking shadow. Next, I like to drop the highlights a little bit here, increase the shadows, not touch the whites, and then drop the blacks a lot to add in more contrast. From here, we can mess with the exposure to see what kind of brightness we want from the image. So we're gonna bring that up a bit, drop the blacks just a tad, go down here into your tone curve, make a little S shape, nothing too fancy here. See the highlights are a little overblown again, so we're gonna drop them even more here. We really wanna highlight the beauty of the can here. The background, I would like to add in more of this lavender tone here, so we're going to go into saturation, select the color picker, go here and just drag it up a bit to increase saturation, and maybe increase luminance just a bit to make it a little brighter here. And there's the final edit. We started with this and ended up with this. Really subtle stuff, so you don't have to do much to the edit. And that's all I got. And that's all I got today. My name is Chris Pieta. I hope you found this valuable, and I'll see you next time.